Hello, and welcome to Sleep with History, where we listen, we learn, we relax, and get sleepy. I'm your host, Brian. Thank you for listening tonight. Today I'm not going to talk about history. I'm going to talk about prehistory. Oh, how crazy, that disregarded period, right? You probably learned about prehistory by reading those little comic books, right? Having a chat with the dinosaur. But let's start by forgetting that idea. Humans never coexisted with dinosaurs, okay? So guys, why prehistory? It's because at some point, they defined that during the period when humans didn't know how to write. They lived in a prehistory, right? Look at that pejorative sense then. Can't write, you're in prehistory. Learn to write, entered history. And is it a term we can discuss? Think with me. If during the whole time we don't know how to write, prehistory, and when we are babies and don't know how to write, and the tribe that doesn't use writing, do they live in prehistory? Weird term, isn't it? So first thing, question this idea of prehistory. Everything is history, right folks? If the guy from 1,000,000 years ago had his life, he also lived. He also had his own history. But let's question this term from the beginning. Second, how can I understand what happened so long ago? If the historian is a researcher of the past, how does he know what a tribe did 100,000 years ago? Very complicated. He needs the help of paleontologists, archaeologists who dig, find objects, and every object we find, even if it's a tooth, we used to try to understand this group better. Alright? So let's go. Today we're going to study the longest period in our history. It's over 3 million years. We are going to divide this gigantic period into 3 parts. The first part, Paleolithic. Paleo means ancient. Lithic means stone. It's the age of the old stone. It's the age of the ancient stone. This is the longest historical period. Afterwards, we go through the Neolithic, period of the new stone, and finally, the age of metals. And there, prehistory ends. All right, so come with me. We start now. So the first period we're going to see is the Paleolithic period. And this Paleolithic period, it goes from 3.5 million years to about 12 million years. It's the only period in history that lasts more than 1 million years. Wow, how am I going to talk about this gigantic period? Hold on. I can't know how those people thought. So what can I say about them? How did they live? The objects we find from prehistory say that they learned already in prehistory, in the Paleolithic, to deal with fire. And fire is very important, right guys? Imagine, it warms, it protects from dangerous animals, it also illuminates the dark. There's just one problem. Fire also attracts attention. It attracts the attention of your enemies. Fire was essential for humans to get this far, right? So besides fire, besides learning how to handle fire, right? Humans also learned to live in families. Humans had also learned to divide certain tasks. Look, you are better at hunting. You are better at protecting the village. So there's already a predisposition to a division of tasks. Men would go hunting, and women would do many tasks. Women could take care of their huts, take care of the little people who were there in formation. They could also make clothes. That is, all the handicraft work could have been done by women. And even religious work. There is no guarantee that the leaders of prehistory were men. Complicated, huh? How are we going to know then if it was a man or a woman? We don't know. Prehistory has a lot of mysteries, and that's why it's so interesting, because we have a lot of answers to find, right? So the next characteristic of this first Paleolithic period is that humans also had to live by hunting, They didn't know which animal they could stay close to and which animal they had to stay away from. So they had to go after, hunt the animals, kill the animal. They also hunted the animals that lived in the sea, what we call fishing, right? When you catch a fish. Well, besides hunting and fishing, you will also have a life already in a family, the use of fire. And they didn't stay in the same place. Why didn't they stay in the same place like us? We live in a house and stay in it. We can even change houses from time to time, but we are used to staying in the same place. They didn't. We live in a sedentary way. In prehistory, in the Paleolithic, they lived in a nomadic way. From time to time, they looked for new places to live, do more hunting, more fishing, and have a little more time to survive, right? Do you understand? They were fighting to survive. It's a different life. All right, continuing. Regarding the arts, cave painting, what can we know about it? Almost nothing. Their language was not ours. What can we imagine? First, it wasn't just a drawing, because to produce that paint, it required some work. Second, not anyone could draw, because they would waste that paint, which took a long time to make. So there's a great hidden meaning within each cave painting. So as we talk here, you will see some images, right? This one, for example, it already identifies that a color widely used was red, right? And besides that, you can notice that there is a certain abstract characteristic, isn't it? And even speak like that. Oh, this here looks like a person, this here looks like a certain drawing. But we can't really evaluate what that means for sure. Everything indicates, if it's so abstract like that, everything indicates that it was some kind of spiritual work, right? So some leaders of the tribes could use some hallucinogenic plant. And from that new vision of the world, he recorded what he had managed to understand. So this is a theory. We can't prove that. What we are sure of is that the use of hallucinogens since prehistory, it was indeed done. All right, guys, so human beings, since they've been here on this planet, have been using certain plants and foods to see the world in a different way. How crazy, right? Let's move on to the next item, folks. So let's take it easy, all right? For now, we have already seen that the longest period of prehistory, the Paleolithic, already explains a lot about what it means to be human. It already explains that for a long time we fought to survive. Human beings, at least the first skeleton we found of our species, was found in southern Africa. And it took a long time for human beings to be able to survive and advance. Walking, moving, and surpassing the limits of that gigantic continent, African continent. That's why there are references to Africa as our mother, because it is from this continent that we emerge. Right, guys? So the term Mother Africa comes from there, right? So we managed to break free from this gigantic continent and reach Europe. We spread out, and a part of humanity goes to Europe, another part goes to Asia. And everything indicates that from Asia, human beings managed to reach the islands of Southeast Asia. And through these islands, they reached Oceania, and also in the north of Asia, the region that is now China, Russia. Through this region, human beings managed to reach America at a time when the planet underwent climatic changes. Planet cooled down, the opposite of what is happening now. And when it cools down, an ice bridge forms between Asia and America. And human beings manage to cross this bridge and reach America. Of course, guys, without knowing where they are going, they are looking to survive. They are not saying, oh, now we are leaving Asia, huh? There, look, just 20 kilometers more and we'll reach America. There aren't even these denominations for these continents, right? So human beings, after a long time, managed to reach America, populate America, and then we have a planet populated by this species. Human beings. Right? Good. So human beings lived fighting to survive for a long time, millions of years. And why did it change? Why didn't it stay like that forever? When did we start making a bunch of machines and living in the same place? What happened? It was around 12,000, 10,000 years before Christ. In other words, 14,000 years ago. Exactly at the end of that climate change. Remember when everything had cooled down, it was starting to warm up again. And when it warmed up, it stabilized. It stayed pleasant for a long time, so it became easier for humans to survive, and it became easier for humans to stay in one place for longer. They didn't have to flee anymore from a flood, or they didn't have to flee from a big storm anymore, or from drought. Humans could stay in one place for longer. Then something fantastic happens. Maybe one of the greatest discoveries humans have ever made. Maybe even more important than fire. When humans ate fruits, vegetables, food from nature, they would throw away the leftovers, right? On the ground. And over time, other plants would grow where they had thrown away that leftover food. And of course, at some point, probably women realized, oh wait, there is a connection between where I eat and where food grows. And then we have the greatest discovery of all time, agriculture. Agriculture was fantastic for us because we could have a guarantee of food. We didn't stop hunting, we kept hunting. Yeah, we still hunt, right? But we already had a guarantee that there would be food to harvest at home. Right? But this also had a negative side. When men no longer had to go out hunting every day, men lived closer to the tribe. And it is at this moment that they subjugate women. And in many tribes scattered around the planet, they place women as of secondary importance. They hierarchize this. And that's why we live in a sexist society, even today. So look how long it's been that man, he falsely, right? He invents that he is more important than women. And he is the one who should lead. Women should just stay at home. But it wasn't always like that. In fact, most of the time, women were the ones in charge, right? But with the agricultural revolution, we have this inversion. Why do we call it the agricultural revolution? Because humans never went back to being the same. If they had to plant, they had to stay there for at least 2-3 weeks to harvest the food. So they are no longer as nomadic. They don't go around all the time anymore. Now they stay in one place, and if they stay in one place, we say that they are now leading a sedentary life. And a sedentary life, like the one we have today, has some advantages. You have more comfort, right? You have more tranquility, more free time. With this free time, you can observe the stars, the planets better. And of course, this is important because depending on the season, that plant will grow or that plant won't grow. See that looking at the sky is not just entertainment. It's not just leisure. Very far from it. It's a matter of survival. First men who manage to read the sky will be placed at a higher level, as religious leaders, often. After all, they can predict when the food will come out. Is there anything more important than that, right? So this period in which human beings go through all these transformations, we call it the Neolithic, new stone. Man has more time, so now he can make better tools. He's already starting to develop the idea that everyone has to have a job. So you have to be a warrior. You have to be, well, you stay there. Not you. You are very important to us. You will read the sky. You will be our astronomer. So we have the division of labor, right? In addition to the division of labor, you will then have sedentarization. Another characteristic, agricultural revolution, better elaborated tools. With this, the human being ensures his survival. And now he can, for the first time, offer food to animals and realize that some animals are docile. I'm talking about animal domestication. Now, men can also identify the best time for you to eat meat. No need to hunt anymore. It's already there, locked in the fence. It's easy now to kill little animals. All right? Well, what about it? Well, that's when human beings start to learn how to handle metal. What is metal? It's like a part of the mountain, the rocks that you take out and make a tool much harder than a wooden or bone tool. Example. But you need to boil that stone at an absurd temperature to be able to melt that metal and make, for example, a sword. We call this process metallurgy, and it is the last period of prehistory, called the Age of Metals, because of that. It's only 1,000 years. 5,000 years before Christ until 4,000 years before Christ. What happens 4,000 years before Christ? The human being who already lives in such an organized way, already in society, building cities near rivers. Do you notice that most cities today are still near rivers? Of course, we need fresh water, right? But now that human beings are already organized, they start producing metallurgy. And with this spare time, they are starting to write, record what they do for organizational reason. And then we have the end of prehistory and the entry of what we call history, properly speaking. All right? So guys, thank you very much for this video. There are others there. We will make this history of the world. There are only 10, 12 chapters, right? Follow us until the end. Thank you very much. And subscribe to the channel. Sleep with History.